So Arsenal have won the race to sign Martin Zubimendi from Real Sociedad. A couple of very, very credible sources confirming that story. The big question is, how will Martin Zubimendi set up at Arsenal? What will our lineup look like when we bring in Martin Zubimendi? What will be the role of Mikel Merino, the roles of Declan Rice, and most importantly, the place of Thomas Partey? Now, this season, we've seen Thomas Partey play predominantly at the right, especially at right back, given the fact that we've had a few injuries and some circumstances that have actually called for a little bit of shifting. Will we see Thomas Partey backing up at right back more next season and Martin Zubimendi moving into midfield? Will we see Martin Zubimendi sitting on the bench probably and then waiting for Partey and his time to run out at Arsenal? What is it going to be like? We're going to be exploring all the option of how Martin Zubimendi could set up at Arsenal. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel as well. Let me know in the comment box below. Would you prefer Zubimendi at the 6 or Declan Rice as the 6? Now, of course, the advantage with Martin Zubimendi and a couple of other players that modern midfielders is they play everywhere. And I think with Zubimendi, you cannot really say he's an attacking midfielder, but if you placed him in that 8 role, that kind of mobile 8 role, just pouncing up and down the pitch, picking up the ball from deeper areas and progressing it, I think he can. Now, he doesn't score a lot of goals, I'm not going to lie to you, and he doesn't create a lot of goal scoring opportunities as well. Actually, let's first talk about his profile. As a player, Martin Zubimendi is predominantly a number 6, a defensive midfielder who also doubles as a central midfielder or a CDM. The way you see Declan Rice, I think their profiles are very, very similar. I've seen him play in the 8 before, and I've seen him play in the 6. Pretty much any one of us watching this video, you've seen Martin Zubimendi play in the 6, and we can confidently say he is pretty good in that position. He's really, really good, in that position. So what should we expect of Zubimendi, and how will Arsenal line up with him? Come next season, I think we shall see a couple of changes to the Arsenal starting 11 generally, but also to the squad actually. I think we'll see a couple of departures in this summer, and we're going to see a couple of arrivals. I won't be surprised if this is a summer where Arsenal go, boom, 5 signings in there, and everybody's like, where did they get the money? So I'm expecting big incomings in terms of numbers, but I'm also expecting huge outgoings. We might see around 4 to 5 players leaving the squad come June and July. So Zubimendi, as his profile is, has got only 2 ways to line up at Arsenal. If we keep the existing lineup, if we keep this existing style of play, he can either play at the base of the midfield, where we have seen a couple of players this season. We have seen Jorginho play there, we have seen Partey play there, and we have seen Merino play there as well, and Declan Rice. Actually, in the pivot this season, 4 players already have played in that position. It's a very crucial position for Mikel Arteta and teams that want to build up from the back. You've got to have a very confident player in that position. The reason being, if you don't have a good 6, you don't have a good pivot. You don't have a good progressor. You don't have a good, clinical passer. You don't have a clean passer. You need someone who is really, really willing to take care of the ball and able to take care of the ball as well. Now, that is the first role Martin Zubimendi is going to be occupying. Now, we understand that Jorginho will be leaving Arsenal this summer. There's no question about that. He's going to be going to Flamengo on a free deal. He should have left in January, but Arsenal say, wait a minute, we are not ready for that. So Zubimendi comes in as a direct replacement for Jorginho. And unlike Jorginho, who's played less and less minutes this campaign, Zubimendi is a little bit younger, and he is very, very vital to Mikel Arteta's plans. So expect him to fill up Jorginho's place in the squad, but then you expect him to play more games as compared to what Jorginho has been doing. Actually, I would say we might see Partey playing, smaller and smaller number of games, and then Zubimendi playing a higher number of games if both of them are going to stay, as competition to each other. So why Martin Zubimendi is suitable for the 6 at Arsenal and Mikel Arteta's system, it is ball progression. I'm going to explain to you what he's going to do in that role, but ball progression is one of those things. Think about this. The reason as to why every Arsenal fan wants Thomas Partey to play in the 6 at Arsenal is not because he wins the ball back a lot of the time. If we wanted someone to win the ball back a lot of the time, to sit in the DM, then everyone would be going, put Declan Rice there, put Declan Rice there. The reason as to why we try and ask for Partey to sit in that CDM role is his ability to progress the ball, but also his ability to dominate. And dominating the midfield means one thing: you have the ball all the time. So Partey is that freak of a midfielder. He's so good in tight spaces. He's very good at long passes. He's so good in terms of physicality. Not very, very tall, but I don't think you can beat him in the air easily. And also he's got that moderate speed that allows him to recover when he needs to. But for Mikel Arteta, Partey is a weapon because of his ability to dominate the midfield, his ability to take care of the ball. Think about Xavi, and think about Iniesta, and think about Busquets. They were not the most physical, and they didn't win the ball back a lot of the time. They didn't have to, because in the first place, they could take care of the ball, right? Very well. The reason as to why we're saying today in modern football that Rodri is the best midfielder in the world, he can take care of the ball absolutely very, very well. If you look at the Newcastle game that we have just lost, 2-0 in the Carabao Cup, what you saw in that game was Arsenal's passes ricocheting off players rather than going under control. If that happens a lot of the time in a campaign, like it has happened this season, forget about winning games as a team that seeks to dominate games, right? So Martin Zubimendi coming into that number 6 as a younger player with legs and with a better injury, record, he's going to give you around 30 games. This kind of Michael Carrick availability. 30 games, the Gabriel availability. The guy just doesn't pick up injuries, right? So he's going to give you 30 games in a campaign where he's just sitting at the best of the midfield and just pulling strings, right? Just dictating games. And I think Zubimendi might have been the last piece of the puzzle, but Mikel Arteta has been preparing for this kind of a player for quite some time. He brings in Declan Rice for 100 million, then he brings in Martin Odegaard for 30 million, and then, most importantly, he brings in a player like Kai Havertz for 75 million. So if you bring the last piece of the puzzle, then to that midfield is Martin Zubimendi, because with Declan Rice, you have a proper midfielder. In Odegaard, you have a proper midfielder, and in Zubimendi, you have a proper midfielder as well. That's a proper midfield. But the thing that Zubimendi will bring to the team, and I think Partey has it too. Mikel is just looking forward and long term. It's not that we don't have it. He's just bringing a player that Odegaard and Rice can trust, right? In occasions where Odegaard and Rice need to press up to the forward 3 so that we attack with 5, they can trust Partey. And as Partey gets older and more injury prone, they will be able to trust Martin Zubimendi, because Zubimendi has got almost the same schooling as Thomas Partey, if not better. I'm not saying it's better than Thomas Partey. I'm saying the principles that Mikel is looking out for, he's got them, if not better than Partey. Which basically means the right. So the other way we could line up with him, apart from sitting in that 6 and then Rice on one side and Odegaard on the other side, is him in the 8. Now, for him to start in the 8, it means one or two things, right? There's gonna be a huge sacrifice, and we're going to talk about casualties. We're going to talk about who drops, right, and why. But we could line up in a 3. Right? We could line up in a 3 where you have Odegaard, Partey, or Rice, and Zubimendi. Now that is the beauty of Zubimendi and Rice. They are so bloody flexible. Like, if you play Rice at the pivot, he can give you some things that Zubimendi would give you, apart from the ability to receive under pressure from a high press. I think Zubimendi is better than Rice at that. But you could play Zubi in the CDM. Like if you just wanted to play Rice as defensive midfielder, you could play a double pivot of Rice and Zubimendi. If you just wanted to play a single pivot of Rice, you can play Zubimendi as the 8. Just allow him to take the ball forward and just progress it. So I think what Mikel Arteta is looking out for in all these players, and I think the Mikel Merino signing either hasn't worked out yet or will not work out. The reason as to why I'm saying that is look at the Martin Zubimendi signing. Martin Zubimendi and Declan Rice and Mikel Merino are very identical signings. Apart from the fact that Zubi is short, they're very identical signings. Physical players, ball winners, midfield controllers, accurate caretakers of the ball. They are very, very good. They're very similar signings. So I think one way that Mikel will look to do it is this. Can I have a double pivot of Zubimendi and Rice, and then Odegaard just goes into that traditional number 10, and then we get a striker, and then we can start cooking. Or we can play a 4-3-3, single pivot Declan Rice, and then Zubimendi in the 8. Or we could play a single pivot of Zubimendi, Rice in the 8, and then we will be cooking. So it's a whole dimension of how we could set up. Now, we are going to have players that drop. That's the truth. And I think, although I don't want to say it, I don't see Rice dropping. I don't see Odegaard dropping. But we have already seen Partey drop. So I think we will see Partey getting lesser and lesser minutes as compared to maybe a couple of seasons ago. So I think we will see Zubimendi play more, and then Partey coming in as the substitute, or Partey leaving altogether. I won't be surprised if Partey heads over to Barca or goes to a club that's actually guaranteeing him some sizable chunk of minutes. The other advantage I see with Martin Zubimendi is Mikel Merino. I think he's worked with Merino, he understands him, they understand each other. Won't be surprised to see Mikel Merino play more with Zubimendi in the team than when he has been out of the team. So looks like Mikel Arteta got his last piece of the puzzle when he brought in Martin Zubimendi. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel as well. We'll meet very, very soon.